Hey there, I'm Samurai Man. In this video, I am going to explain how speedrunners beat Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, in 30 minutes. The speedrun starts from the first input. Either you start with default controls or after re-binding buttons. The timer on the right side of the screen is timed with the in-game time, so whenever we as our speedrunners are going through a loading screen, it stops the timer and resumes after the loading screen is over. That is because speedrunners and people overall have different type of builds for their PCs. Right now you saw infinite vault jumps, which is done by vault jumping, immediately attack, then using the block button, so you can start another chain of vault jumps. This movement you're seeing is just a regular slide cancels with kicking and sliding immediately after that. This sort of like a jump between the enemy and the wall happens because my game was set on 120 FPS, and for some reason it works mostly and only on that setting. Then I lowered it to 60 FPS because of an upcoming trick I'll be going for later in this run. After this cutscene over here where we learn about the vengeful counter, I'll be skipping the rest of the fight. Though I won't be able to get the potion unless I go to the certain part of this next screen. The potion is not mandatory for beating this game, but it will help me to survive in some of the fights. Uvishka boss fight is straightforward. Just kill him as fast as possible. Nothing more to add to it, or no way to make it faster. Other than that cool, quick parry animation that you just saw. Instead of going to talk with other immortals, like you would normally do, we are doing wall jumps to go out of bounds. Then we will do a trick called sword hovering to make it the loading screen that is not visible on a screen, but for some reason it exists there and allows us to skip the whole part of this intro. Then we do more infinite wall jumps to go out of bounds in this fight with the swordmaster and skip the boss fight, which saves quite a good amount of time. Normally in Mount Goth, you would go through the entrance that leads you to a girl who gives you a map and other stuff. However, you can skip all of that by doing sword hovering to this ball. This ball is the reason why I set the FPS from 120 to 60. After that, I set it to 90 FPS, which will help me to get the another kind of a trick later much more consistently. This path leads to the prison and helps me to get to Haven faster. In a prison, I kill these enemies so I can open this chest that contains 200 crystals. I need these to upgrade my weapon later. The plan in Sacred Archives is to get to the warp point. In Haven, I talk with this mage, and she will give me an amulet, which increases my health by 1 bar. It is temporary and helps to survive against stronger enemies. This location gives you new amulets, upgrades, and more crystals. The first item you get here is Arslan's Glory. It is an amulet that boosts your damage if you have full health. Normally in this screen, you would need to open the pots to make the water flow. But using this ball, you can skip all of that with the jumping attack animation cancels or so. Under the prisoner boss fight is not that bad, it's not hard, but you can skip this boss fight by using the vengeful counter to clip through the door. In Hyrcanian Forest, the only objective is to get the Menelaus bow. There is a one skip you'll see in this screen that is done by using a sword hopper. After getting Menolia's bow, you can do slide cancels with the bow, which is much more reliable to do on controller. However, there is this glitch called Infinite Height glitch, which you can see right now, that allows speedrunners to gain infinite height anywhere they want with the bow, as long as they have arrows. Along the way, I took my time to grab these crystals, because I am going to upgrade my weapon. This ingot is required to upgrade your weapons or bow. After upgrading the weapon, I used the infinite height glitch to make it to the other side of this platform, where you will make it to the first boss fight, the actual boss fight. But you can skip all of that with the infinite height glitch and go from the other side. However, to make it to the feather, you have to do dodging animation backwards, because the game is gonna lock you on this position to move right only. If you can only move right, then you softlock yourself. After getting the task ability, it's time to go to the depths. Before descending more in the depths, we speedrunners have to take our time to grab this Ultra Search ability called Wind of Sistan. This will help us to get further in the depths, because there is a masked enemy that will block our path, and without any glitches, it is impossible to get through it. To skip this is done with the Wind of Sistan, then getting grabbed by the masked enemy, and for some reason it pushes it to out of bounds. There is one more masked enemy, but we can just kill it, since its back is facing towards us. Next up, it's just cool movement tricks until we meet alternative Sargon. This fight is basically all about knowing how to beat alt Sargon without letting him to attack you. Fortunately, the fight is short and simple to do. We grab his ability, called Arash Ray, which we will equip later. After getting this feather that gives us a shadow ability, it lets us to make a copy of ourselves and we can warp to it later. You're about to see one of the coolest speedrun glitches of this category. It is called Shadow from Warp. When going through loading zones, you can cast the shadow ability and it lets you to warp to the other side of the map. For each screen, these locations are predetermined. Hitting this warp portal will let us to warp back to the Sacred Archives. In Sacred Archives, we have to make it through to get to the west side of Upper City. Right now, it is a lot of climbing and going from a screen to screen. This elevator helps us to get closer to Bahram boss fight. However, we are not doing the fight at all. We're gonna skip all of that and go the other direction. With the infinite height glitch, we make it all the way up over here. And we have to use it again to make it through this screen that is very big. There are archers around that we have to avoid to not take any damage in. I activate this tree so I can equip the newest Atra search ability, and Death Warp is used later to respawn back on this tree. Drop all the way down and make it to the next screen from the very bottom of this area. Then attempt Shadow Prong Warp to go out of bounds. I need to navigate through out of bounds without loading screen triggers by accident. This door is normally locked from the left side, but the loading zone does exist on the right side. Using infinite height glitch to get to the other side of the screen with some wall jumps and dashing. This Shadow Prong Warp doesn't make it too far, but it makes it far enough to make it to the other side of the screen. Runners can warp to out of bounds with ledges as well. It uses the Shadow ability. Getting back in bounds is done with this staircase. It is kind of random at the times. What works for me was to spam jump and dash buttons. In this screen you cannot make it to the other side because the door is locked, which means we have to go out of bounds. And that is pretty simple and easy to do with infinite height glitch. In Speedrun I use the background as a visual cue to determine how far I am out of bounds, so I know when I have to start falling off and I can enter the loading zone from the other side. Now it's time to fight King Darius. It is a very hard boss fight. There are attacks which are unavoidable without the grapple ability, and we don't have it in this speedrun. He isn't difficult to fight against in a first phase, but in a second phase he will start doing attacks we have to avoid with infinite height glitch. Sword hovering is used to remain airborne a little longer. Unfortunately, I didn't benefit from Arslan's glory here, the amulet that boosts damage if I'm at full health. It's important to recognize his attack patterns, so he won't surprise you with an attack that deals a lot of damage to you. I put on Immortal difficulty, so I can do Death Warp much faster in this screen. And after Death Warp, I put the difficulty back to Rookie. These two enemies are really easy and fast to kill, thanks to the power of Arslan's glory and debuffed weapons. Using the mark that I got from King Darius will let me to open the door to Royal Corridors. Going through the door will let me to cast a shadow in out of bounds. And obviously, it lets me to warp out of bounds. By going through out of bounds, I skip all of the fights that are in this screen. In Crossroads of Times, I gotta make sure I have at least one arrow so I can use the infinite high glitch. Reminding you, it is impossible to do infinite high glitch without having at least one arrow. Bahram boss fight is not as difficult as it may seem. What really sucks sometimes is that he's gonna be up in the air, and it's really hard to go up there and deal some damage with infinite height sometimes. Sometimes I use this Ultra Surge ability, so I lock him in place, and I can deal some more damage. Using the chakram will break the rock faster. The second phase always starts in the same attack pattern. I block them, then he deals then he tries to hit me with the third attack, and I can deal damage that way. Each attack after that is random, then I have to just react to it. Personally, I go for this counter because it deals a lot of damage. In a third phase, there will be one Bahram on left and one on right. I use infinite height glitch to raise myself up and use the Ultra Surge ability I got from alternative Sargon fight. If shot at the right spot, both Bahrams will take a hit. Right now, I'm just waiting until he comes back down, so I can deal damage again. The final phase heals you fully, and you become a little bit faster. Then it's just beating Bahram as quickly as possible. Nothing more to add to it. And that is how speedrunners can beat Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown in just 30 minutes. The current world record time is 23 minutes and 55 seconds by Yuamba. I highly recommend to check out that speedrun. Link to their run is in description. If you are interested in learning to speedrun the game, you'll find a link to the Prince of Persia speedrun in Discord in the description too. I hope you enjoyed the video.